Hello, hello, and happy Friday. It is another Ask Me Anything session with experienced investigators. I'm Jeannie Walters. I'm so glad you're here. And today we're talking about customer service and customer experience and how if we can better align those two ideas and those efforts, we all get better outcomes. I'm really excited about this one. We just celebrated Customer Service Week and Customer Experience Day earlier this year. So, this is a timely topic, but honestly, it applies any time of year. So, today I am excited because we have a special co host. We have Jillian Fritzke with us. Jillian, welcome, and let's get started.
Let's do it. Thank you so much for having me here. This is my first Ask Me Anything, and so I'm looking forward to today's session.
Well, we're looking forward to having you here. And for those of you who know Paige, she is off singing in Paris right now or on her way to Paris, which is very exciting for her. So Paige will be back with us again. But Jillian, we're so glad that you're here because you've been a part of the Experienced Investigators team for a while now. And for the last year plus, you've been directing our CXI Ground School and CXI Flight School. So those of you who are members of those programs are familiar with Jillian because she's, of course, the leader over there. So, Jillian, what should people know about flight school and ground school?
Yes, it is an awesome program where we get to really support CX professionals in kind of a group coaching setting. So every month we have a new workshop with different topics that we cover, and we take feedback from our members on what they want to learn about, and then we get to have Q&As with them and really walk with them through the process of transforming their organization into being a CX focused, customer focused organization. So it's been a lot of fun. I love getting to meet all of the CX professionals and just hearing about their business and their struggles and what they're accomplishing because they do so much.
Yes, yes. We know that anybody out there who considers themselves a CX leader, you have a lot going on. And so we really take it as our role to support that, to empower you. Jillian's done a great job with that program. I really have enjoyed those workshops and we do live Q&As over there as well. So lots of exciting things. If you're curious about that, check out cxiflightschool.com. Of course, CXI is for Customer Experience Investigation because we are the experienced investigators. This is all about being curious and really understanding why things happen so we can make things better. So, Jillian, if people have questions today, you'll be fielding those. And you are in a different part of the world than me a little bit. You're in a different time zone, at least. So I'm in Chicago. You're in Northern California. And you were telling me there might be snow this weekend? Is that what you said?
There's snow in the forecast, and
Oh
so
my
we're all
goodness.
mourning a little bit. I mean, there's a few people that are excited and ready to start skiing, but I myself am mourning summer and fall being over.
Well, maybe it's not over. Sometimes in Chicago, we get like fake summer and things like that where it comes back for a week or two. And then, so you never know.
That's true.
But as people join us, we would love to know where you're joining us from and what's the weather like? What's the forecast? We're in that time of year where you might be having some snow, some leaves, all sorts of things. And we have a special co host and my dog Harvey with us today, too. So you might hear him in the background as well. So, well, okay, let's get started. This is a big, juicy topic. So, we today are going to be talking about customer service and customer experience. And perhaps more importantly, how to really get the maximum impact out of that. As we go along, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. And if it's not about this topic, but about something else related to customer experience, I am happy to answer those as well. This is Ask Me Anything for a reason. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeannie Walters. I'm founder and CEO of Experience Investigators. We've been celebrating our 15th year in business this year. And what we do is really look for ways to live our mission, which is to create fewer ruined days for customers. And we do that by empowering leaders like you with education, with content, with training, with speaking, with all of these different things, as well as consulting and advising. So if you are looking for resources, we have more than 400 articles on our site. So check out our learning center at experienceinvestigators.com. And we have videos and podcasts and all sorts of things for you there. So go ahead and search for what you're looking for. And if you can't find it, if you are looking for a topic that you want us to address, go ahead and reach out. That's how we drive a lot of our content planning. So let us know what you want to see, and we will do our best to provide it. So, when we talk about customer experience, I'm sure this happens to many of you where you are actually uh, really looking for, or you're guiding a customer experience program. You mentioned to somebody that you are in the field of customer experience, and they immediately think of customer service and they start telling you about their customer service stories, right? And sometimes in the customer experience space, let's be honest, sometimes they don't respect customer service as much as they should. And so there can feel like there's some friction there. I really believe that customer service and customer experience are not necessarily different to the point of being adversaries, but actually, when we align these missions, when we really understand the roles that everybody plays and the way that these ideas can work together, we provide a superior experience for our customers. Our employees feel more connected to what they're doing, and we deliver more organizational results. This is what we call the triple win, where you are winning for customers, employees, and your organization. That is really the secret sauce of customer experience strategy. It's understanding how do you deliver on that triple win. So when we talk about customer service versus customer experience, the way that I like to think about this is we absolutely need customer service. Customer service is such an important role where we need to understand that when people have issues, when things go wrong, when they have questions, when maybe they just can't find something, we need to be available to them. And our brand needs to show up for them. That is a reactive function. We are there when the customer needs us. We are providing service in the moment that they have that question, they have that issue. Customer experience is proactive and intentional. It's more about understanding what are the unmet needs of our customers? What are they really trying to do? And how can we help them do it in an easier, faster, more convenient way? And if we can really dive into the design of that, what we'll find is that customer service helps us do that better. So, um, as we go into this today, remember this is the tip of the iceberg, too. Customer service is a big topic, customer experience is a big topic. We're going to do our best to talk about it. But if you have questions, please go ahead and drop those in. So, prioritizing the customer experience. It can help your organization in many ways that directly benefit the bottom line. And we, as CX leaders, and if you've followed me for any length of time, you know I talk about this a lot. We have to show up as business leaders. We have to make sure that we are speaking the language of our organization and not just talking in kind of broad terms like keeping customers happy or improving net promoter score. We have to make sure that we understand how to really directly affect the bottom line results for our organization. And focusing on service can help us do that. What I mean by that is there are two things every organization is looking for: higher revenue, lower expenses. That's it. Everything else around that, there are different motivations, there are different visions, all of those things. Yes. But every organization needs to be successful in a financial way. And so when we know that, we can think about, okay, what is service really? Well, service is reacting to things that are happening that might not be going right for the customer. Sometimes it is simpler, sometimes it's just asking a question. That's fine. But what if we could reduce the need for that service for customers? What if we could actually use the information from customer service calls and requests to actually improve the customer experience proactively? So, there are a couple ways to think about this. If you are building a case for customer experience and customer service, consider what would happen if you could reduce service costs. What if you didn't need to have quite as many technologies to field calls and things like that? What if you could reduce the amount of time that people are spending with each customer so you could speed up the process for the customers? What if you could reduce the cost of that? What if you could increase customer loyalty by delivering exceptional service? When things go wrong, we actually have a chance to improve loyalty by having service recovery, really great service recovery. And in fact, if you ask somebody about their best customer service story, it's usually about recovery. They say, "Oh my gosh, everything went wrong, but then I talked to this one person and she solved it and she felt so bad and she empathized and she sent me something." That is when you can actually earn more loyalty. So this is an opportunity when we look at it with that lens. And then of course, part of this is our customers are reaching out to us. What a great opportunity to find out what's really going on, not just from what they say, but what they do. Why are they calling us? What happens next after they have a great service interaction? Do they buy more? Do they carry on with their journey? What happens? So there are all sorts of ways to look at this alignment between reactive customer service and proactive customer experience. So we need to make the case because sometimes most organizations look at things like customer service as a necessity. It's often referred to as a cost center. It's often seen as, well, yeah, we need that, but it's not really respected the way it should be. So we need to make a case about why we are building this strong customer experience program strategy that includes customer service and how those two things align. So the way we do this is by building a business case. We want to gather some information. We want to make sure we understand the baseline of our current customer retention rate, our average customer growth, our total number of customer service requests, things like that. For instance, do you know how much it costs to actually provide customer service for each customer? Do you know that? And if not, it might be a great takeaway to go figure that out. What does it cost when we have a customer who contacts the contact center, gets through their customer service request, and gets what they need? What is the cost of both financial, of course, but then time, resources, all of those things? What is the opportunity cost? If we could actually take those very people who are serving them to focus more on different aspects of the customer experience, could we get better results that way? We really want to think about what is it we want to measure and what is most meaningful to the people in our organization. Then we want to explain what we hope to achieve. And this is frankly where I see most organizations that fall down. So I would love to hear from you. What do you do here? How do you explain that vision of what are the results that you hope to see? A customer experience strategy success statement, you've heard us talk about this too, is especially important because that breaks down what are the organizational goals, what are the leadership goals, and where do your customer experience efforts really play a role in delivering on those outcomes. So this is really where we want to look at success and metrics. How are we going to measure that success? Increased revenue from retention and referrals is a great one. Cost savings from fewer service issues, stronger standing against industry competitors. If we are not painting that picture of what our leaders want to see for the future, it's very easy for them to think, well, customer experience is just an extension of customer service. It's not really different. It's not really meaningful enough to invest in. We need to make that case that customer service is incredibly important and it's part of this bigger idea of customer experience strategy. We also want to start with a clear pain point in the customer experience whenever we can. So this is something that, your leaders might know this. They might know that, oh yeah, we know our customers hate when they are delayed, right? Like, oh, we hear all these complaints about that. We hear how there are things that are not going right because of our systems, our legacy systems, but we're not going to change those. So they know these things are happening, but they're not really figuring out what to do about it. This is where customer experience leaders can really step in and say, hey, we looked at customer service feedback. We looked at what's happening. We believe we could actually break this down in a way that would have a dramatic impact for our organization. One of the things we looked at with a large organization was that they were frustrated with their contract renewal process. And what I mean by that is renewals were taking a lot of time, a lot of back and forth with customers, and they just weren't guaranteed. Their renewal rates just weren't where they wanted them to be. So not only were they spending a lot of time and effort and money, frankly, serving these customers to try to get them to renew, but then once they got to that renewal moment, many organizations, many customers were not renewing. So we started thinking about what is going on here. And we looked at customer service. What is happening? Why are they calling? What is the request that they're making? And why is there all this back and forth? And we realized that was the issue. Let's figure out what if we could make the responsive rates faster? What if we could make responsiveness more of a cultural kind of initiative at the organization? So people knew they had to respond very, very quickly, very accurately, and make it easier for the customer to take the next step. So that became part of the ethos. So instead of saying to the customer, well, you have to go to this site, you've got to log in here, you've got to reset your password, all those things. They basically said, I'm going to do X, Y, Z for you, and then you will get an email where you can just click. So thinking through what are the things that we can do, even when we have legacy systems, even when we have all those things. Now, were the customer service people doing a great job with these? Absolutely. But they were trying to get through a process itself that was muddy and complicated and slow. And so we were able to speed up that process a little bit, but then we were able to measure our success by looking at responsiveness. How can we improve responsiveness? Once we identified that, then we connected that to the renewal rates. Are we able to close more renewals in a faster way by doing this? And of course, the answer was yes. So then you start seeing revenue generation and cost savings as well, because it wasn't taking all this back and forth. It was timelier. People were getting renewed well in advance. So that's always a good thing as well. So there were all sorts of ways to look at this. So get creative when you're trying to make that business case and think through. But if you see something through customer service metrics, through understanding, or through just connecting, aligning with your customer experience leaders or customer service leaders, you can go into the contact center. You can listen to some calls, listen to recordings, look at the chat logs, all of those things, and start identifying what is really going on that we could have a proactive impact on. And how will we know if we're successful? That's where the metrics come in. So we need to bridge the gap between customer experience and customer service. This is where we ensure cross-functional alignment at the leadership level. I have seen a lot of customer experience programs, this might shock you, that never reach out to their customer service leaders. They never venture into the contact center. They basically get the reports, they get some numbers, and they call it a day. Our jobs have to be proactive. That means we have to be intentional about really connecting with our customer service leaders. So when we are looking for how do we make that alignment, look for what is a win for us as far as customer experience, what is a win for them as far as customer service. So if they have goals, we want to know about that. We want to have that cross-functional alignment. So, who are the leaders you can reach out to? They will probably love to hear from you, because often customer service is on an island. It's not connected in the way that it should be. So, we want to make sure that we are the ones who are reaching out, creating that cross functional collaboration. So, that could be um, something to really think about. Even if you can do it informally, that's a takeaway from today, too. What can you do to really reach out to your customer service leaders and your teams to bridge that gap and create that cross functional leadership? Because they'll have information to help you do your jobs better. You'll have information to help them do their jobs better. That's the attitude, that's the ethos we want to bring to things. So there are several proven ways to accelerate your alignment. One, we're a fan of customer journey mapping because we've seen it work. So that's how we identify high priority moments and uh, optimize the customer service for our CX strategy. If you are not including your customer service folks in your journey mapping efforts, you are missing a gold mine of information. Please bring in those frontline folks who deal directly with customers on a daily basis. They have so much information to share. They are willing to communicate. We need to invite them into that process. We also are in the age of AI. Let's leverage that. Let's look for how can we use AI to analyze customer support transcripts, those chat logs, all of those things, and flag recurring issues for CX. So if we see something again and again and again, and yes, it gets resolved through customer service, but it shouldn't be happening in the first place. That's a great thing for us to tackle as customer experience leaders. We also want to prioritize CX education for all employees. I have seen so many organizations that say, they call us and they say, well, we need you to come in and talk to our customer facing employees because we're having some customer service issues. Now, that is one part of that puzzle. And so make sure that every single person in your organization understands their role with the customer experience, whether they are customer facing or not. It is just so, so important. We want to make those connections between the daily efforts of somebody who maybe doesn't think of themselves as connected to the customer experience. Maybe they work in supply chain or in finance. Well, they have a direct influence over the customer experience, whether they know it or not. Just by serving internal organizations and our internal customers, that has a domino effect on what experience the customer actually receives. So, how do we do this? We want to drive lasting customer satisfaction and loyalty. Customer service and customer experience teams need to really align their efforts, align their goals, align their outcomes, and make sure that they are really talking in tangible ways. Because sometimes we talk about this as, yes, everybody deserves a great customer experience, and that's what we do. But we really want to make sure that we are connecting the dots with what are their tangible outcomes? What will our organization care most about? What will our leaders care most about? That's the language we need to continue to speak. Now, customers need service. There is no doubt about this, right? So, our organization needs results. So we have to put those two things together. Proactive, intentional customer experience strategy that we talk about here all the time. We need leaders like you. We need to make sure that you are there to make those outcomes possible. So, my question is how can you shift? Maybe it's not your mindset. Maybe you think this way, but what about others in your organization? How can you shift their mindset from reactive to proactive? That's what I want you to walk away and think about today and start to take some action on. So at this point, I would love to open it up to questions. And I know we got some by email this week when we announced this topic. So we can maybe start with those. And as you have questions, please feel free to drop those in.
Yes. The first question is, how can we use customer service interactions as a way to gather insights and improve the broader customer experience?
Mm. So this is that kind of yin and yang I was talking about. There's a push pull here because we as customer experience leaders can find so much information through what's happening in customer service feedback and insights. It's one piece of the puzzle. And so when we look for things like, okay, what are the top complaints? If you're in a product environment, you might be looking for what drives the most refunds, because usually that tells us operationally what something is going wrong. Something isn't working the way we expect it. Um, I would also look for if you know that you're having an issue. For instance, if you know that I mean, we've all had some weather delays lately with different things going on. So maybe that's happening. If you know that, go to your service metrics and insights and look for things that really talk about that and see what can we do about that. Can we proactively communicate? Can we help our customer service colleagues figure out the best way to address that when they have an angry customer who has something delayed? There are all sorts of ways to really look for that. But I look for, again, going back to what is your mission? What is your strategy? So if you have a strategy that is about, for instance, increasing the level of service while decreasing cost. I would look within your customer service metrics and insights and things like that to identify, where did we fall short and why did we fall short? If we want to make sure that we are responding to people within 24 hours, or if we want to make sure that we can solve their problem within the first call, something like that, first call resolution, then look for those very specific insights so that that can help you set up for success. That can help you define, what is it we're trying to do? How will we measure success? And how does this tie into our bigger customer experience strategy? There isn't a perfect one-to-one here. We need to be strategic leaders. That means we have to look for nuance. We have to understand, what are the actual outcomes and goals and everything else. Because if we don't understand that, then that means that we are going to not be able to set ourselves up for success. So make sure that you're looking for what matters most to your organization, your leaders, and your outcomes. And then how will you measure that success? And that's where you can get into things like first call resolution. You can get into things like, and for those of you who don't know, first call resolution is one of the most popular ones because that tells us information. Customers don't want to call back about the same issues. So we want to make sure that we are delivering for them in the easiest, fastest, most convenient way. And that's where we are. Those are the types of things we want to look at and kind of pull the thread on. All right. Other questions?
Yes, we got another question. I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. And it says, Jeannie, during your presentation, you mentioned using AI to analyze customer support transcripts to identify recurring issues. How do you see AI evolving in this space, and what emerging trends or technologies are you most excited about in leveraging AI for more proactive CX strategies?
That's a
I'm
great.
excited to hear your answer too.
That's a great question. Yeah, AI is really moving forward in remarkable ways right now. There are a couple things I'm personally excited about. One is, the use case I'm seeing the most right now is actually internal for the employees who are in customer service. So, for example, if I'm a customer service agent right now, I might have some different ways to find information because we're fielding different types of calls all day. We've got chat going. We've got, people who are trying to find information on specific products. It's a lot of information that we ask these customer service agents to really field. The use of AI right now around knowledge bases is really exciting. And the reason it's exciting is because right now, many systems, yes, it's in the system, but you have to know exactly what to look for and how to look it up. So if I'm an agent and I'm talking to somebody who's upset because maybe they did have to call back, and so you've already got kind of heightened emotion, and then they say, well, this is about a product that you sold 5 years ago. That might not be in your resource that you have right there. So that's when you have to put them on hold. You have to find a supervisor. You have to go through all that. All of those steps the customer doesn't like. Let's just say that. We don't like that as customers. So why do we expect that to be okay? So what I like is this new way that AI is providing natural language processing, so that if I'm that agent, I can literally just type in the product name and it comes up with a couple things, or even the question as the customer asks it, and it will provide those different resources at the ready. So that is something that I think is really exciting. The other end part of that is sometimes predicting the next step. So AI has the ability to say, oh, well, let's say that we know who this customer is, we know their purchase history, we know their address, we know all of this about them. So within that AI knowledge base, it might also say, hey, please warn the customer about delays in shipping because they're in a hurricane zone and they just had a hurricane. Something like that. That maybe if you're a person and you're in the moment, even though you recognize that maybe they're in a certain part of the country that has hurricanes, you might not connect that right away. So that's where I see real value right now today the most. That's the use case I'm seeing the most of. Where AI is going, I mean, think about all the information we have about customers now. It is difficult in the moment to kind of cross tabulate all of that and figure out how does that intersect with what we want to do, what they want to do, all of those things. The speed that AI can do that, I think that will lead to more self-service for customers, which they are asking for. People don't necessarily want to call or use chat or just reach out. They want to be able to fix things on their own or find the right information. I think that AI will help with self-service in a big way because it's more personalized. It will recognize that me, Jeannie, I actually have made purchases every 6 months because of certain, because that's the pace that I use the product. So instead of waiting for me to reach out, maybe AI will reach out and say, "Hey, it's been 5 months and you can you can order your next product available to you now. We think that you're ready. Here's just click a button," or something like that. The other thing that we'll do is with refunds and things like that, make it easier for the customer to do that. I'm going to let my dog out of this room because he's starting to whine. So I'm going to go off camera for like a hot second. So Jillian, if we have another question, go ahead and read it. I can still hear.
Perfect. We do. Let me pull it up. Could you give examples of micro moments that businesses often overlook but could significantly improve the customer experience? And
Yes,
I can read
I
that
love
again if
micro
you.
moments. I love micro moments. And I love micro moments because this is something I started talking about back in, gosh, 2013 when I did the TEDx talk on it. The way I define micro moments are moments that either build or erode trust because they're not the moments that people are going to say, "Oh my goodness, I'm walking out and I'm never coming back here." Instead, they're the moments that will help people feel kind of cared for in the moment and move on to the next step, but not maybe think too much about. Or they just chip away at the trust. They chip away, chip away. So when we think about that in context of customer service, what we're really saying is that example I gave of somebody calling again and again and again. Um, every time we have to call, trust is eroded, and that's a hard thing to state. That's a hard thing to accept, but it's true. We have to understand that every time we're asking somebody to call to fix something, to ask a question, to follow up on an order that they don't know where it is, that is eroding trust. What we need to do is look for ways within the customer service framework to reassure, to build confidence, to build trust with our customers. Because if we don't do that, then what that means is we are going to basically not know when they're drifting. And you'll see this a lot in membership models, in subscription models, in recurring product models, and even in B2B. For instance, in B2B, if we are frustrated because maybe we trusted that salesperson, they were really good. They called us back all the time. They were proactive. They did a lot for us. And then we move into an account management relationship where they're just not like that. We have to keep asking. We have to keep following up. They don't get back to us when they promise. That just erodes the trust. And so if we think about how to be proactive there, that's actually building reassurance, building trust, building confidence with the customer. And so customer service is full of opportunities for this. What sometimes kills me is you'll see that an organization will have a really robust customer service team. They have, you know, field operations all over the world sometimes. And if they don't have a crisis going on, they kind of act like, well, what are we really doing here? Right? Like, people don't need us. Think about how proactive customer service agents could be with the right information. They could reach out and say, "Hey, we just wanted to check on you. Here are the different ways that you can have things delivered if you are having a weather delay," or something like that. Really getting proactive there with the customer service team that knows what customers are going through. So I think that there is just a ton of opportunity with the micro moments of reassurance and confidence and things like, you know what, if you make a service request and you haven't heard back for a few days, think about what that does. So, what if we could reassure and say, hey, we heard you. Here's what's happening. Here are the next steps. Here's when you'll hear from us. All of those things build trust. That's what we want to look for in that idea of getting more proactive with service as part of a bigger intentional proactive customer experience strategy.
I think we've all experienced that where we've put in some kind of request for reach back out and then it's just silent and
It's
it's very
silent.
frustrating.
Isn't that weird? It's
It
so
is.
it always, I'm like, man, like that's when we all have those stories where we say, I was literally trying to give them my money, right? Like,
Yeah,
take my money. I'm trying to give you my money. And they're making it so difficult that eventually you're just like, you don't deserve my money. And
right. I
it's
will
not
go elsewhere now.
dramatic. Yeah. It's not a dramatic exit. It's usually just like, hey, and Lisa has a great comment there. I call it unpaid customer labor. I love it. The time, money, and frustration the customers are required to pay to get a product or service. That is a great phrase, Lisa. And I think it's a really good reminder that when we are asking customers to basically jump through hoops that, frankly, we created, and we're almost annoyed that they are calling us or that we have to call them back or all those things, it just it 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 strikes me as like you wouldn't treat any other relationship in your life that way. And yet this is a really valuable relationship, and we make all these promises to customers, and then we do things like that, and it just erodes all that trust and goodwill. And so they're going to tell people never, like, I will tell you, never shop here, like never do this, because they've had such bad experiences. That does not show up in your surveys. That just shows up in your operational metrics and your revenue, frankly. So that's why we have to really lead with those business outcomes. We have to look at strategy in this way that our leaders care about, because they won't see this. They actually have to, we have to paint that picture for them, and we have to let them know that, yeah, that's not showing up in our surveys, because they're not going to respond to a survey. Like, those customers who are treated that poorly, who just walk away, they're not going to give us any more time. Why would they do that? So we have to be really aware of behavior as well as feedback, and put all of that together when we're making our business case for this. Yes.
We have another question.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and read it. You emphasize the importance of prioritizing CX education for all employees. What are some of the most innovative or effective methods you've seen for embedding this education into the daily workflow, especially in organizations that are resistant to change?
That's a great question too. And let me just say, all organizations are resistant to change. Because humans are resistant to change. So we actually just talked about this in CXI Flight School. We talked about some of the change management techniques to use around this. But one of the things that well, there are a couple of things. One is everybody's attention span is getting shorter and shorter. So I love bite-size education. I love giving people little tasks to build up to really integrated understanding of their role in customer experience. So if you can do bite size, that's always really helpful. I'm a big fan of something we call mission moments. That's where we are looking for kind of peer recognition. How did somebody live up to that customer experience mission? Or when did we miss it? And let's talk about it. Because the way I think about education, it's so much more than like training or curriculum. This is about really getting people to understand how to behave differently. And we want to recognize that behavior. We want to encourage that behavior. And we need to make it a safe space. People are going to make mistakes. They are going to be resistant to change, especially if they don't know the why. So always, always come back to the why. And that's why with our programs, we always start with our customer experience mission statement, Because if you think about customer experience like I do as a mindset, strategy, and discipline, then we need to get everybody on that mindset. And the best way we can do that is define who are we to our customers and why. Why does it matter? Our products don't really matter. Our services don't really matter. What matters is what our customers do with those products and services. How do we make their lives better? How do we make their businesses better? How do we make the world a better place? That's the why we have to get to. And once we do that, we have to make sure we come back to that again and again and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is why we have the change. And this is what we need you to just think about today. And just try to really get clear on what is it you're asking people to do. Uh, I also like the quote of clear is kind, right? Like we are really looking for how can we provide that clarity, that vision, that strategy so everybody understands how their role plays a part. So I do like the innovative techniques of kind of bite-sized information. There are various ways you can do this. There are videos, of course. There are also things like asking people to fill out a little, like a 2-question survey every day. What is changing for them? How do they connect with that? And then I also am a big fan of peer recognition for this because people start seeing, oh, if I behave that way, I'm going to be recognized and I'm going to get this little, maybe it's a gift card, maybe it's, a statue on your desk, whatever it is. But when we're really looking at that, I think that's very powerful. And then the other thing around that is uh, making sure, again, that we are bringing the progress up to the leadership level. So making sure that as we have this education, as we see the changes, tie that back to why does that matter? Well, in today's market, a lot of organizations are worried about hiring. They want to make sure they know it's very expensive to hire people. So once you get somebody in, you want to keep them as a successful employee. So look at your employee retention rates, look at your employee journey maps. And if you don't have one, we have resources for you on that too. But the whole idea is if we can get an employee to stay a little longer because they feel like their work is meaningful and because they're connecting more to the why and the education around this, that will be a cost savings for your organization. Oh, there it is. Thanks, Jillian. So Jillian's got the link for you. If you can drop that in the chat as well, Jillian, that would be great. So we have a resource for you there for an employee journey map. So when we are talking about really how do we uh, connect the dots here with education, it all comes back to, are we influencing behavior? Are we actually making sure that the behavior is being driven in the right direction? And so think about ways that you can measure success of these programs as well. Employees really don't like the training. Where a lot of organizations now have so much. They have to do safety training, they have to do compliance training. There are, HR training of all sorts of different things. Maybe there are financial trainings, software security trainings, and many of them are pretty boring. And it's just something that people feel like they have to get through. So I would encourage you to be creative too. There was one that I saw recently that really left an impact with me. And that was, instead of showing somebody, it was about security issues and it was about how to report when things go wrong. I won't say the organization, but it was in a regulated industry. And they were basically saying that if you see something, here's how you say something. Here's the protocol to go through. But instead of just having a training about it, they had a little like movie trailer and you were hooked. Like they showed this woman who was making a call saying, I don't know what to do. I think one of my colleagues is doing something bad. And it was like a thriller. And so think about creative ways to provide that education. This is something we're experimenting more with our clients as well, really figuring out what is it that you can do a little differently to help people feel engaged. So the engagement's really important, bite size. And then the last thing I'll say about this is repeat, repeat, repeat. People need to hear this a zillion times, more than you think. And that's because we haven't done a great job in the industry of defining what customer experience is. It's not part of everybody's plan. It's often, in a way, kind of retrofit into the organization. So we need to introduce this change, repeat it, help them realize what's in it for them, and then keep talking about it, because we cannot make it a flavor of the month. We can't just stand up at a town hall and say, yes, we're customer centric now and hope for the best. We have to really put in an effort to have an ongoing communication strategy around this that reinforces the training, that gets people engaged, and that really helps them understand the why and how they're connected to it. That was a long answer because there's so much opportunity there, I think.
Definitely. All right. What role does leadership play in driving a customer first culture, and how can we encourage them to take ownership of that transformation?
Oh boy. Well, leadership plays a huge role, of course. And we have a saying around here that we only work with enlightened leaders. And that's because it's really difficult if you don't have leadership buy-in to really make that change. But I think that, like anything else, leaders have to understand that saying it is not enough, that understanding it is not enough. They have to lead. They have to make sure that they are not just talking about it when it's convenient, but really tying customer centricity to decision making, to understanding results, to, uh, you know, making sure that everybody understands that connection. And so that's where things like, there's a difference between focusing on what does the customer need and what is our next product. Those are two different questions. We have to make sure that we're starting with the customer focus and that we're not moving forward with just the usual. And leaders have so much to do with that. So, the best way to get leadership buy in is to make a business case, to make sure you are speaking their language of strategy and making sure that you are moving forward with that. So all those techniques we talked about, making sure you have that CX mission statement, making sure you have a success statement. We have some downloads for you for those as well. And then once you have that success statement, it allows you to invite leaders into that process a little bit more. And it helps you understand, how does this all connect to our organizational goals? How does it connect to our leadership goals? How do we make sure that we're delivering on that? So speaking the language of leaders is incredibly important. The other thing is, help them feel like it reflects positively on them. If you can show some really great quick wins, some pilot projects, some things that are really moving forward, for the overall organization based on your efforts in CX, praise the leader, right? Like, say, hey, thanks to your uh, approval on this project, these are the results we're seeing. People love to be, showcased. And sometimes that is a good way to do that as well. And then invite leaders into those, like, hands-on moments. Customer journey mapping is a great one. Inviting them into the contact center for a day and say, hey, we just want you to hear what customers are saying. And if you don't have humanity on your dashboards, this is your call to action to do that. If you only have numbers and charts on your dashboards about customers, that will never move the human spirit like a story, like a quote, like a recording. And so make sure that you're always representing the customer in some way that is connected to humanity. Whenever you're reporting, stories are what move people, including leaders. So make sure they're not just hearing about metrics, that they are hearing about the humans that are impacted by the work that we do. Good question. Leadership buy-in is one of those things we talk about in flight school a lot as well, isn't it, Jillian?
It is. It's a huge piece, because if
Mhm.
you're trying to transform your organization, but you don't have leadership buy in, you're not going to get very far.
Yep, exactly, exactly. All right, any other questions?
Those were all the questions for today.
Excellent. Okay, well, we had a great little discussion. This is such a fun, and I just think it's interesting how even now, if I say customer experience, people go immediately to customer service, and sometimes customer experience people, they kind of go, "Oh, well, not customer service." And it's like, they're so important. And it's so important to just respect the work that everybody's doing and respect that this all has a great impact on how we deliver for customers. So I hope that people continue to build those cross-functional teams, that they really build those bridges throughout the organization, because then everyone will gain the most out of that. So I have a couple last minute things to cover with you all, but don't forget, we do this about once a month. And so pay attention to LinkedIn, and we will cover another topic next time. And if you are curious more about this topic, we have a really long article on our site at the Experience Investigators Learning Center. So don't forget, you can also check that out as well. So I wanted to remind you all that we have a couple of things happening that might interest you. One is, if you do want more information about all of this, if you want to make sure that you are building your business case in the best possible way, then this is a recent LinkedIn learning course that I developed that is out now. So go ahead and check this out at LinkedIn. This is about CX operations, developing a customer-centric operating model. So we released this one, as well as something called the CX value chain that can really help you build your business case, understand your strategy, and connect the dots between results for your organization and your customer experience efforts. So check those out. And then if you have not taken the compass, we have something for you that it's an easy, quick way to kind of assess where you are. It's based on our CXI navigational model. And this is really about, we believe that first you have to be intentional. So that's where intentional success comes in. But then the other parts of the navigational CXI navigational framework is cultural commitment, such a big part of what we do. Customer collaboration, of course, we want to listen to customers, we want to respond, we want to invite them into the process. And then finally, experiential innovation. This is where we use what we've learned in our work in customer experience to get ahead, to make sure we're innovating around the customer experience, because otherwise, what are we doing this all for? We need to make sure that we are acting like those business leaders and stepping in and kind of owning that role. So there are all sorts of ways that we guide you through that, but this assessment gives you an idea of maybe where you want to focus next. Maybe you've done a lot around customer collaboration, but maybe culture needs some attention. So go ahead and go through that. And if you need some more help on that, reach out, and we are always happy to go over that with you as well. And then finally, you heard a little bit about this today, CXI Flight School and CXI Ground School. This is now an open enrollment. You are free to join anytime. And this is really a program to support you in developing these foundational tools, the CX mission statement, the CX success statement, the CX charter, things that give you that power to really lead within your organization. So I hope that you will check that out. And we are always accepting applications. We're doing some fun things. We've got a really great planning session coming up in December. So if you join before then, you can join us there. So I think that's almost everything. We also have a podcast. Don't forget, Experience Action. This is where I answer your questions. And then once a month, we do something called a CX Pulse Check with a special co-host, where we look at things that are happening in the world of CX today. So it's a very timely episode. That one will be coming out in early November. But if you ever want to leave me a message, I know some of you here have already done that. I always love hearing from you. Just go to askjeannie.vip. You can leave me a voicemail there. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do that. And if you've listened, we love your reviews. So let us know. All right, we are here for you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the work that you do in customer experience and customer service. And know that we know the work is hard. We know you're putting in the effort, and we know there's always too much to do, but we see you doing it. So keep up the good work. Keep asking great questions, and we are here for you. Keep in touch, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks, everybody.